Connor is here to talk about these guys. Like I mentioned earlier, Brett Veach took to the podium, talked about kind of his logic, the rationale in drafting these guys. And I want you guys to hear that. I don't want you to just hear me talking about Brett Veach talking about it. I'll just play it, let you hear it yourself, let you hear the tone, let you hear everything about it. So we're going to talk about all four of these picks. And the first one I want to start out with is Cornell Powell. An interesting pick. At the time, it was one of those where you pick him. I was like, okay, I like that guy. I know who he is. But there were other receivers on the board. Maybe they could have looked at, and then you start looking at Cornell Powell, and you're like, okay, this dude had a pretty big breakout year. How come his breakout year was so late in his career? Then you look at the other receivers that he had with him. Amari
Right.
Rogers.
Justin Ross.
Right. He had some dudes in front of him when it
Yeah.
came to his time at Clemson. And then you start looking at the highlights. You start looking at the mixtapes. You start looking at the film. And you're like, this dude's shifty. He's got some oily hips. That's a phrase that Todd McShay used that I
Yeah.
didn't really like, but I'm starting to use it now.
It's a weird
He is
descriptor.
very weird descriptor. He actually used it of Sean Wade, who Cornell Powell absolutely toasted and made look
Yeah, that
a
clip was
fool.
something.
Oh, it's like in the same drive, it's like 4 or 5 times he burnt him on just one play. So he like 10
Right.
times this dude got burnt. It's really fun to watch. If you haven't watched the Cornell Powell mixtape on his Twitter, go watch it because it's just basically him embarrassing Sean Wade the whole time in the college football
So
playoff.
you're
So
saying
fun.
when we play the Ravens, we should put Cornell Powell and Sean Wade
Mhm.
because he went to the Ravens, I believe. So
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs have the clear advantage in that matchup.
So what do you think about this, Connor? I know Ryan Nutt, he area scout for the Chiefs, said that he can fill in right where Sammy left off. Do you think that that's possible?
It's possible. I mean, the thing about this day three for the Chiefs, when I look at it after the end of the draft, I loved it. I do fear this might cause a lot of expectations to rise for some of these players because it's actually a day three that we all like. So
Mhm.
it's kind of going to get to the point where we go, oh, Trey Smith, he could start at right guard year one. That's probably not going to happen. And the same thing for Cornell Powell. There's a reason he fell to the fifth round. It's because he's a late bloomer, and those kind of guys usually don't. I wouldn't say they have success in the NFL sometimes, but I wouldn't say they like break out and become like a DeAndre Hopkins type. I think the expectations for Cornell Powell year one, there's a chance he starts at X. I think there's a real chance he could because from how the Chiefs front office and scouts described him, they were like, he's a post up guy. He's a route runner, strong hands, can go up and get it. And you just look at the Chiefs roster, you go, they have nobody who could do that on the
Mhm.
outside at wide receiver. I don't even think Demarcus Robinson really is one of those. He's kind of this weird kind of just bunch guy who you want running across the face of the formation, kind of just getting the ball in his hands to hopefully make plays, hopefully not run backwards. But Cornell Powell provides even a different skill set compared to him. So it's just if he can be ready, if he can come in, learn the playbook, I think he could start at X day one. I don't know how good he would be. I don't think it's going to be at peak Sammy Watkins level. But even last year, Sammy Watkins was injured basically the whole year. It seemed
Right.
like he was not performing very well. So I think the thing to look out for Cornell Powell is if we hear news about him out of training camp. If we hear him doing well against the cornerbacks in camp, hear like maybe Patrick Mahomes talking him up a bit, maybe seeing in a preseason game or two, there's a real chance he could start at X. But if we don't hear that, I don't know if we should have the expectations that high.
Yeah, and Brett Veach talked about in his press conference about Cornell Powell being a post-up player, and the question really was it just because Cornell Powell's a post-up player that you took him, or was he just the next receiver on the board? Brett Veach
Right.
basically said it was pretty much the same. Like it worked out that way. But here's what he had to say about taking Cornell.
Kind of worked out in both regards. He was, again, going back to the mindset we worked all weekend. He was the best player available, but he, ironically enough, did fill that kind of post up position. He's a 6 foot 210, 212-pound receiver. He's big, strong, physical. The production wise, I mean, he had a monster year this year, but leading up to that, the production wasn't always there. He had some injuries that he dealt with, and obviously Clemson has a lot of talent. This year, he really kind of tapped into, that potential. And if you look at the second half of his season last year, that was good as any wideout in the country. I mean, he was just ripping off big game after big game, and certainly showed what he can do versus Notre Dame and in the bowl game versus Ohio State. So love his skill set. And for where we are on our roster with McCole and with Tyreek, he's going to be a great compliment, as an X receiver, got big size, really good after the catch, strong player. So just think it's a great fit, and great value there. And we're excited to work with him and see how he can add to an already dynamic offense.
So Connor, Brett Veach talks about the value of his pick here, taken in the 5th round, 181. What do you think about the value of this pick here? I know we did talk about other wide receivers, but as a 5th round guy, Cornell Powell here, do you like that value?
I like the value for sure. I had him around other guys there. I liked Trevon Grimes actually a bit more than him. He went undrafted. I was a bit shocked that happened.
Yeah.
But I like Cornell Powell. His tape's really good. He shows nuanced route running. It was obvious in the 4 years he kind of rode the bench at Clemson. He was learning the intricacies of being a receiver. And obviously he was on the bench because, good God, his body's chiseled like a Greek god. So I did like the value there. I think that's around where he should have gone. He tested pretty well for a guy his size and his ability. And you just hope it translates to on the field, because on the field, sometimes at Clemson, you didn't really see it at times. But I think for what the Chiefs want him to be, he tested well enough to where he can be that X receiver. He's not going to be the deep threat guy, and the Chiefs don't need him to be, because they have McCall Hardman from the slot, Tyreek Hill from the Z or the slot. So the value from where they got him, some teams were probably shying away from Cornell Powell because they're like, we need our true alpha who can also win down the field. They're like, Cornell Powell can't do that. Well, the Chiefs don't really need that. So I did like the value. The pick, where he was picked, made sense. It met with what I really thought his value was. So overall, I thought it was a solid pick.
It's good to see Brett Veach be excited about where he was on their board and where he fell to, right, with the skill set that he has. That's encouraging to see. And I know the scouts are high on him, like I said, Ryan, not saying he could fill in where Sammy left off. He's a good run blocker too. That was mentioned also in some of the scouting reports, and that's what the Chiefs really like with their X wide receivers. So I'm actually really excited about Cornell Powell. I think they might be a little higher on him than really we are, which is a little bit gives me some anxiety about it. But you know what? There's 5th round picks every year that don't work out, right? So if they take this 5th round pick here, they like his talent, they like his skill set, doesn't work out, that's fine. And you mentioned how his body's chiseled like a Greek god. The dude looks like he hasn't eaten a carb in like forever. He has like no fat on his body, straight muscle. I think he ran, what did he run? Like a 4.4 at his pro day, 4.4, 4.5, around there.
4.52-ish, I think.
Yeah.
He's faster than DeMarcus Robinson. He tested pretty much better than DeMarcus Robinson in every way, I believe. Like his drills were good. Like everything about him were good. It was all above average. And you kind of worry with guys that test above average and they kind of look like it on the field. They go, can that translate to the NFL? But there's been guys in the past that have had that worked out. Like T. Higgins kind of tested like that and he worked out. DeAndre Hopkins tested like that and he worked out.
Yep.
So we'll see when he gets on the field. And like I said, we'll probably be able to tell if he can work out in the NFL based off the camp reports we hear on him. If he's if he's posting up guys in training camp and beating them on routes, running around guys a bit, jumping over guys, then I think that'll be the time to start getting excited about him.